In this video, we're going to be downloading Unity Hub. I'll be installing Unity 2020.1, and I'll also be downloading Visual Studio Code. First step in the process is go to a web browser and search for Download Unity. That will allow you to find the download page. From the download page, you'll see a couple of options. What we need to do first is download Unity Hub. Now, I've already done this, so let me show you what Unity Hub looks like for context. This is a place where we can manage our installations. I've got just one installation at the moment. It's an older version. I'll install the latest Unity in a moment, and it allows you to manage your project. So it's like a launcher and like a place to manage all things Unity related. So go ahead and download Unity Hub by clicking on the green button and then wait for it to finish its downloading, obviously. Once it is finished, you can just simply click through that process. You've installed things before, I know, so click on the launcher, follow the prompts, install it on your hard drive. Once it's installed, then open up Unity Hub, and you'll be in the same spot that I am at now. So you might need to pause the video while it's downloading, and once it's downloaded, then catch up to me for accessing Unity Hub. Okay, with Unity Hub open, we need to look for the installs option. Now, they change this around all the time, so the buttons might be in a slightly different spot, but just look for installs, and then we're going to look for the add option. Click on add. My strong advice is never go and download the alpha version. These are going to be buggy, and you'll have issues, so look for the latest official releases. They're usually the ones with an F in them. The latest that's available to me right now is Unity 2020.1, so I'll be using that. It's okay for you to use a newer version if you want, but like I say, don't use the alpha. So click on the version that you find and click on next. And you can see here we're now adding the modules to install. You can install Android build support, WebGL build support. For now, we will install the WebGL build support so that we can create builds that can work on a website, which is cool. I'm going to leave the others blank, and I'm going to turn off Microsoft Visual Studio Community. I'm going to be using Visual Studio Code, which is really similar to Visual Studio Community, but has the advantage we've found that it looks the same for PC and Mac users. So if you want, you can use Visual Studio Community, not a problem. But if you want to follow along exactly with me, then you can uncheck that, and in a moment we'll be downloading Visual Studio Code. So once you've done that, click on Done. Once again, we'll go through the process of installing. I don't believe it asks us where. It just says, rightio, I'm going to install it wherever Hub is installed. That's cool. And it'll take a while. It needs to download, it needs to install, and go through that process. Now, while it is installing, what I'm going to do is install Visual Studio Code, which will be my editor or my IDE. And I'm going to explain how these work in just a moment once we get things downloading. So in your browser, type in download Visual Studio Code, find the website, should be the first one. Then you'll see a page like this that'll allow us to choose the operating system that's appropriate for us. Click on that and start that process of getting that downloaded. Yep, mine's starting to download now. Cool. So while Unity and while Visual Studio Code are downloading, I want to show you just something to give you the context if you're new to this. So the two main components we're downloading at the moment, our game engine, we're using Unity. Other game engines, you've probably heard of Unreal. It's the other big popular one. And we have our integrated development environment. I'm using Visual Studio Code because I found that works better, like I say, for Mac and PC users. We could use Visual Studio Community. There's a lot of different IDEs out there. You don't have to use a particular one. We know what game engines are. That's why you're here. You want to learn Unity and use it as a visual interface for creating games. There's a whole bunch of code that we get with the game engines, like physics and rendering and audio and a ton of other things that give us a big advantage, a big head start when it comes to making games. Now, IDEs, why are we using those? That's the place that helps us write the code to tell the game engine what to do. And why do we use an IDE instead of just writing it in Notepad, for example, writing our code in Notepad? Well, IDEs such as Visual Studio Code give us a whole bunch of tools like auto-completing or color coding or syntax error checking. So if you type something in, it'll say, I don't think that's quite right. So it gives us a lot of support because it already knows a little bit about what we're trying to do and gives us some hints as to what might work and what might not work. And these two relate together by, in our IDE, we will be creating .cs files. So these are the scripts where we save our code into particular files on our hard drive, and then Unity is going to read those files to see what it needs to do in the game. So over in our IDE, we might say, move our player 10 to the right, and we'll save that information in a script as a .cs file, and then Unity will read that script and say, okay, I'll move the player 10, what did I say? 10 somethings to the right, just as an example. So that's the relationship between our IDE and our game engine. And just in case you've only been watching so far, here's the time where I'll remind you of your challenge is to download Unity Hub, download the latest Unity release that you can find. If there's any problems at all, download the version that we are using in this section of the course. So I'm using 2020.1. Download Visual Studio Code, and we'll make sure everything works properly in the next video where I'll be firing up Unity and Visual Studio Code, and we'll be writing our first bit of code. So, good luck with the download. Hopefully it doesn't take too long for you, and I'll see you in the next lecture.